Hi everyone, I hope you're super excited to make your very own version of Van Gogh's Starry Night. This was one of my versions. If you're worried about it or you've never painted before or you're super excited to get started, I can't wait to walk you through step by step this video. We're gonna make it super easy to create your own masterpiece today. So before we start painting, I just want to go over some things about this video. So this bottom part here, from now on, I'm going to call this the valley. This is this whole bottom strip. This middle area is going to be called the hills. Then the top here is the sky, with this swirly bit being the cloud. So from now on, if you hear me say the valley, the hills, the sky, the cloud, that's what I'm referring to. Make sure before you sit down to paint that you have your paints and your brushes, you have water to wash out your brushes with, and you have some paper towels to dry your brushes. All right, so let's get started, guys. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on the background of our piece. For those of you who got a normal cobalt blue, this is our cobalt blue. Mine is a little bit light. So if your cobalt blue is a little bit lighter than you want it to be, we're gonna mix it. So to mix our cobalt blue, I'm gonna take my ultramarine, which is this darker blue that we have, and I'm gonna use a medium brush. I'm gonna take one really big scoop of ultramarine and put it in there. I'm gonna take a second one, big scoop, and put it in. I'm gonna stir that up real quick, just to make it a little bit darker. If you like the color of your blue, you can leave it just as is, and that's fine. Okay. So now that I have my darker blue, I'm gonna just put it to the side, and we're gonna use that in the next step. So make sure if you used your medium brush, it's nice and clean, and dry it off before we go on. So the very first part is we're gonna take this bright yellow and we're gonna fill in all of the circles in our sky. The circles are gonna turn into stars. So first step, we're gonna take this yellow and my medium brush here. We're just gonna carefully fill in each circle. So when we're done with that step, just put your brush in the water. For moving next, we're gonna use our really big brush. So this is the biggest brush you had in your kit. And we're gonna take our cobalt blue and we're gonna fill in the whole bottom here, the whole valley. Make sure you also get the edges of your painting so that when you hang it up on a wall, it looks nice and finished. Now using the same brush, without washing it, we're going to take some purple and working from the edges, we're going to work in towards the middle, blending the purple. So I'm going to take a big swoop of the purple and start on this edge here. And sort of blend it in and down. So switching to our medium-sized brush, make sure it's nice and clean, and we're gonna go back to the cobalt. This time we're gonna fill in the whole sky, so just be careful going around the stars. If you accidentally get any yellow on your brush while you're doing this part, wipe it off on a paper towel before you continue. if this part right here inside the swirl is a little hard for you to get through to with this big brush, you can switch to a smaller one. I'm just going to go ahead and do it with this bigger brush though. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna rinse this brush off and then we're gonna do the hill right here. Okay, so using our medium brush and our purple, we're gonna do the bottom of the hilly area first with a line of purple. I'm just going to make this line a little thicker. So it's about half the hilly area. Now what we're going to do, without washing our brush, leaving some purple on it, we're going to use our black paint to fill in the top half of this hill. And we're going to blend the black down into the purple so it mixes. So just keep running your brush over the middle area to blend the black and the purple together. Okay, so now that we have our background done, we're gonna start moving into some of these smaller spaces and doing some details. So before we move on to the next step, we're gonna mix a couple colors that we're gonna be using. So I want you to take your mixing plate and your medium brush, make sure you've cleaned it off, and we're gonna be using some white paint. So I'm gonna take 2 big scoops of white paint and put it right there for one of my colors. And I'm gonna turn my plate and I'm gonna use a different section. Use 1 big scoop of white paint. All right, so I have my 2 scoops, my 1 scoop. I'm gonna put my white to the side for now. And I'm gonna take my dark green that I have here, this really nice dark green that we have. So using the brush still with the white on it, I'm gonna take 1 big scoop of my dark green, put it here, and I'm gonna take a second big scoop of my dark green. I'm gonna mix it with my white. Make sure when you're mixing a color that you don't use the whole plate. Try to sort of mix it in place so it doesn't get too spread out and you still have enough paint. All right, so we've made that really nice light teal color. So I'm gonna wipe the extra off of my brush, rinse my brush off. And now we're gonna take the cobalt blue that we used for our background, take 1 scoop of that and mix it with our white on the other side, the 1 scoop of white we made, to make a nice light blue. All right, so we're gonna put this mixing plate to the side for right now, and we're gonna come back to it in a minute. So rinse off your medium brush again. And dry it off. You want to make sure it's nice and clean because we're going to be using white next. All right, so I'm going to take my white paint and we're going to paint the swirly cloud white to start. Okay. So switching to our small brush, we're going to take some of the teal that we just mixed, and we're also going to use the purple, the cobalt from our background, and the ultraviolet, that dark blue. And we are going to add some dashes to our swirly cloud. So we're going to do 1 color at a time. As you're going, you want the colors to kind of fade into the wet white paint that we just used, okay? So it's okay if the colors change and fade as you go. I'm also not gonna wash my brush between each color. I'm just gonna wash my brush at the very end. If you don't want your colors to mix too much, you can wash it between every color. It's up to you. If you feel like your cloud has too much white or not enough color, you can go back over some sections. So I'm gonna go back over with some teal because I feel like I don't have enough teal in there now. If you feel like you use too much color, you can always wash your brush and then go back over some spots with a little bit of extra white. It can also help to just blend some of the colors together. So moving on, make sure your brush is nice and clean. We're gonna keep using this little brush for a while and wipe it off on a paper towel. So we're gonna make some thin squiggly lines right above the hill right here. And we're gonna use the dark yellow, the bright yellow, and a little bit of that really nice light blue we mixed. So I'm gonna start with the light blue. You just want like nice wispy squiggly lines. They don't have to be perfect. It's okay if they end and you start them over. Okay. I'm gonna rinse my brush again. We'll do some bright yellow yet next. Make sure you wash your brush between each color. And now using the nice deep yellow, same thing again. Lastly, I'm going to do the same thing again with white, but I'm just going to use a tiny, tiny bit just to add a little bit of highlights to the area. So the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna do patterns around all of these big stars in the sky. We're gonna use both of the colors we mixed, the teal and the light blue. And you wanna kind of make all of your dashes in circular patterns around all of the stars. So it looks like swirling around the stars. So I'm gonna start with my teal and I'm gonna go around every single star. And then without rinsing my brush, I'm gonna use the light blue. right? And now, same with the teal still, we're gonna fill in a little bit around the swirl as well. Okay, so same thing with our light blue now. Without rinsing your brush, we're gonna start around the stars and then go around the swirl. So wash your small brush again. And now this time we're gonna do dashes around the stars, but we're gonna start inside the star and work our way out. So we're gonna start with white, and same thing, we're just gonna do each star, working from the inside and then slowly going out a little bit around the star as well. If your blue on the round the stars is still wet, you might want to wipe off your brush between each star. Okay. So wash your brush. And now we're going to do the same thing with the deep yellow. Wash your brush again, and we're going to do the same with the bright yellow again. So before we move on, we're going to use our deep yellow one more time, and we're going to make this big star into a big crescent moon. So crescent moon shape, we're going to go this whole side, we're going to paint this whole side with the deep yellow, and you're going to kind of do a sliver of it to look like a big moon in the sky. And you might need to use a lot of paint for this part. That's okay. You want it to be kind of lumpy and imperfect. Okay, so we can wash our brush. And now we're going to move on to working on the bottom area. So for this next step, I like to use this smaller square brush, but if you don't have one around this size, you can use either the small brush we've been doing the details with or the medium brush that we did the background with. So I'm going to take my small square brush, and we're going to use the teal that we mixed to make some houses on the bottom right side of our canvas. So we're going to start kind of in the middle and work our way towards the right without filling out the whole area. And so for this part, you can kind of make squares or rectangles or big boxy shapes. And they don't have to be perfect or even, but these are going to be the buildings in our town. Okay. And so you're going to rinse your brush. And we're going to mix a new color on our mixing plate. So I'm going to use this spot right here. I'm going to take a scoop of white, and I'm going to take a little scoop of my black and mix it together. We want a nice gray. So that looks good to me. So I'm going to take my little brush, make sure it's nice and clean. I'm going to take this gray that I just mixed, and we're going to make some little triangle roofs on some of these houses. So we're not going to do every single house, because in any town or village, or let's say where you live, the houses don't all look the same. So there's no reason for all of our houses to look the same either. And so I'm just painting little triangles onto my, my houses to make some roofs. That's good. Now for the next step, we're going to make some little windows on our houses. Instead of using the bristles of our brush, we're actually going to use the end of the handle to make perfect little dots. So I want you to flip your brush over, and we're going to use the bright yellow, the white, and our black to make some little dots on the houses for windows. So up to you which colors you use where and which one you use first. Just make sure you wipe your handle between each color. Just make sure your little brush is clean. And we're going to use just a little bit of white paint. We're going to do some lines right in the corner here. The best way to do a skinny line is hold your brush nice and straight, and instead of moving your wrist, move your whole arm to paint really nice even lines. So we're just going to do some lines right in here. So for the next step, we need to make sure our canvas is totally dry. So you can either wait, if your canvas looks really nice and dry, you know when not a single speck of your paint is shiny. If any paint looks shiny, it's still a little wet. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a hair dryer and dry it with a hair dryer. If you have an adult or someone you trust who can help you dry your painting, you can do that. So now that my canvas is nice and dry, I am going to take my cypress tree cutout, which is this right here, and I'm going to take either a Sharpie, or you can use a pencil or a marker, whatever you have available. I'm going to put it on the left side of our paintings. So I'd say right about there. That looks good to me. If you did houses a little too far over, you can always scoot your tree one way or the other. I'm gonna go right there, and we're just gonna carefully outline our tree. So just go nice and slow. And make sure you're holding it down as you go. And don't worry if you make any mistakes tracing, because we're going to fix them in our next step. Okay. So you can use a medium or small brush, whatever feels more comfortable. And we're going to fill in this whole outline with our black paint. If you have any clumps or bits of thick paint, now's a good time to smooth those out because we need this to dry for the next. So next, with our clean baby brush, we are going to do lines over this cypress tree in our deep yellow, and then we're going to do some in white. You want your lines to kind of follow the lines of the cypress tree. I'm going to wash my brush and do the same thing in white. And now the very, very last step, and it's very important, is you need to pick a corner and sign your name on your artwork. So I'm going to do it right over here underneath all these like white lines I painted. There we go. Your masterpiece is complete. If you feel like you made a mistake or you don't like a certain part, wait for it to dry and you can go right over it with more paint. Acrylic paint is very easy to fix. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I hope you have a beautiful masterpiece you can hang on your wall now. We'll see you next time.